The evacuation sirens wailed across Manhattan as terrified civilians streamed toward the subways. Above them, the massive Vraxian vessel hovered like a silent predator, its hull reflecting distorted images of the skyscrapers below. Captain Maya Reynolds of the NYPD directed the flow of people, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Keep moving, stay calm," she shouted over the chaos, making eye contact with a mother clutching twin toddlers. "The subway will take you to the emergency shelters." 3 blocks away, Dr. Thomas Walker watched the alien ship from his university office window, frantically downloading research data to portable drives. His life's work on neural interfaces couldn't fall into alien hands. The building shook as another explosion rocked the financial district. The military's resistance was proving futile. "Professor, we need to leave now," his research assistant urged, backpack filled with lab journals and prototype equipment. Walker nodded, pocketing the drives. "Humanity may have lost this battle, but we're not finished yet." At the United Nations, the emergency session had devolved into barely controlled panic. Secretary General Kumiko Yamamoto maintained her composure as delegates shouted over each other. The massive view screen showed Vraxian ships establishing positions over every major city worldwide. "The Joint Chiefs confirm our missile defense systems have been neutralized," General Harrison reported, his face ashen. "Our satellites are disabled. We've lost contact with our submarine fleet." Ambassador Chen from China stood. "We must negotiate. My government is prepared to offer." The doors to the chamber burst open as 4 Vraxian diplomats entered, their elongated frames towering over the human security guards who accompanied them. The room fell silent. The lead alien, skin shimmering, with an iridescent blue-green pattern, approached the central podium without invitation. "Your species' attempts at resistance have been catalogued," it stated, its translator device giving the words a flat, mechanical tone. "Further military action is unnecessary and wasteful. The Vraxian ascendancy offers terms of planetary integration. In the Nevada desert, the last operational military command center monitored the situation. Colonel Sarah Freeman watched as global defense systems failed one by one. "We've lost the Pacific Fleet," a lieutenant reported. "European air defenses are dark." Freeman's jaw tightened. "What about Project Lighthouse?" "Secure and undetected, ma'am. The facility is deep enough that their scanners haven't picked it up. Keep it that way," Freeman ordered, deleting files from the main system. "When they take this facility, and they will, I don't want any record of its existence." At the UN, Secretary General Yamamoto signed the surrender document with a steady hand, though her eyes betrayed her anguish. The Vraxian representative pressed a scaled finger to the document, leaving a phosphorescent mark that seemed to pulse with its own light. "The integration of Earth into the Ascendancy begins immediately," the alien announced. "Your cooperation will determine the comfort of your transition. Resistance will be met with immediate population control measures." Outside the UN, a young journalist named Michael Reyes recorded the proceedings on a hidden device. As Vraxian guards began confiscating all electronics, he slipped the memory card into his shoe. History needed witnesses, and humanity needed truth. The occupation had begun, but so had the resistance. Dr. Elena Chen slipped her access card through the scanner at the Metropolitan Museum of Art's East entrance, now designated Research Facility 7. The Vraxian guard barely glanced at her. Its 4 pupilled eyes focused on a disturbance down the street, where food rations were being distributed. 6 months of occupation had settled into a grim routine. Inside, the grand hall that once displayed Renaissance masterpieces now housed row upon row of analysis equipment. Priceless paintings had been replaced by specimen containers and holographic displays. Chen made her way to her workstation, nodding at fellow human researchers, all carefully selected for their expertise and monitored constantly by floating surveillance drones. Subject 127's cellular degradation has accelerated, her supervisor, Dr. Patel, whispered as they stood before a tissue sample. "They'll want explanations." Chen nodded slightly. "I'll run additional tests." What the Vraxians didn't know was that Subject 127's tissue had been deliberately contaminated. A minor act of resistance, but one that would force them to divert resources. Every small disruption counted. In her apartment that evening, Chen carefully removed the contact lens camera and downloaded the day's observations to a modified e-reader. Technology so outdated the Vraxians hadn't bothered to confiscate it. The aliens' overconfidence was their weakness. 2,000 miles away, Marcus Reed crawled through mountain underbrush, thermal masking blanket protecting him from the Vraxian drones that patrolled the Colorado wilderness. Beside him, teenager, Zach Wilson followed precisely in his footsteps. "Step exactly where I step," Reed whispered. Their sensors can detect weight distribution patterns. They reached the ridge overlooking Labor Camp 5 where 300 humans worked the mineral extraction facility. Reed raised his binoculars, studying the guard rotations. "My parents have been in there for 4 months," Zach said, his voice tight with emotion. "We'll get them out," Reed promised. "Tonight." As darkness fell, Reed activated the signal jammer. Technology pieced together from salvaged Vraxian components. They had exactly 12 minutes before the system detected the interference. Back in New York, Dr. Chen attended the mandatory evening briefing, standing at attention as Commander Vextol addressed the human researchers. "Your work progresses too slowly," the alien announced, its voice translated through the facility's speakers. "The ascendancy requires results on human biological adaptation to our atmospheric preferences." Translation: they wanted to terraform Earth to their specifications regardless of what it would do to human physiology. "We need additional time," Chen ventured carefully. "Human cellular response is unpredictable." The commander's scaled skin rippled with displeasure. "Time is not a resource we allocate freely. Improve your efficiency." After the meeting, Chen took a permitted recreational walk through the facility's perimeter. At precisely 8:47 p.m., she paused near an abandoned newspaper kiosk, bent to retie her shoe, and slipped a microdrive into a concealed compartment. In Colorado, Reed and his team successfully extracted 17 people from Labor Camp 5, including Zach's parents. The teen wept silently as he embraced them for the first time in months. "How many camps have you hit?" Mr. Wilson asked as they moved through the forest toward the hidden mountain base. "This makes 7. Reed replied. "Small victories, but they add up." "The Vraxians are talking about it," Mrs. Wilson whispered. "The guards were furious after the last escape. They're being pressured by their superiors for explanations." Reed smiled grimly. "Good. Pressure leads to mistakes. Mistakes give us opportunities." His command spire, Admiral Zorth, reviewed the latest resistance reports with growing irritation. These humans were proving far more troublesome than anticipated. Dr. Chen massaged her temples as the holographic neural patterns pulsed before her. 3 weeks of sneaking extra lab hours had finally paid off. The similarity between Vraxian neural frequencies and human alpha waves wasn't just coincidental. It was mathematically significant. She carefully adjusted the comparison models, mind racing with implications. The lab door hissed open, and Chen quickly switched displays. Research assistant Liu entered with fresh tissue samples. "Working late again, Doctor?" Liu asked, eyes darting to the surveillance drone hovering in the corner. Chen nodded. "Commander Vextol expects a progress report tomorrow." Once Liu left, Chen continued her secret analysis. The Vraxians' neural command signals operated on frequencies that human brains could potentially generate, with proper training and amplification. Their technology wasn't designed to be species exclusive. It simply required the correct neural patterns. "It's like finding out a lock accepts multiple keys," she whispered to herself. 3 days later, Chen navigated Chicago's underground tunnel, system guided by resistance members through passages untouched by Vraxian sensors. The abandoned subway station had been converted into a command center, power siphoned from the aliens' own grid in quantities too small to detect. Marcus Reed looked older than when she'd last seen him. New scars crossed his left cheek, and his eyes carried the weight of difficult decisions. "This better be important," he said, nodding toward the projection equipment. "We risked a lot bringing you here." Chen connected her encrypted drive. "It's everything." The gathered resistance leaders watched intently as she displayed comparative brain scans and neural frequency analyses. Former neuroscientist Dr. Kwan leaned forward, eyes widening. "You're certain about these frequencies?" he asked. "Completely," Chen replied. "I've triple-checked the data. Their neural interface technology responds to specific pattern frequencies, not to Vraxian biology specifically." "And humans can generate these patterns?" asked Amara Washington, Reed's second-in-command. Chen nodded. "With training and the right interface technology, yes. Their machines don't care who's giving the commands, only that the neural signature matches expectations." Reed studied the projections carefully. "You're saying we could potentially control their technology with human minds?" "Not just control it," Chen said, pulling up her theoretical models. "Our brains process certain types of parallel information more efficiently than Vraxian neural structures. With the right interface, we might actually operate their systems better than they can." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "This changes everything," Washington whispered. Reed paced the room, mind calculating possibilities and risks. "We'd need equipment, specialized neural interface components, Vraxian tech samples to test with, medical supplies. And absolute secrecy," Chen added. "If they discover we've found this vulnerability, they'll change their entire command structure." Dr. Kwan was already scribbling notes. "I worked on neural interface technology before the invasion. With the right components, I could build prototype connectors." "How do we test it?" Washington asked. Reed's expression hardened with determination. "We have a damaged Vraxian scoutcraft hidden in the Montana facility. If we can get Chen and Kwan there with the necessary equipment." Above them, a Vraxian harvester rumbled through the streets, its vibrations sending dust cascading from the tunnel ceiling. None of them noticed, too absorbed in planning humanity's most daring counterstrike. The Appalachian laboratory hummed with quiet intensity as Dr. Chen and Dr. Kwan made final adjustments to the neural interface helmet. Repurposed medical equipment from 3 different hospitals had been combined with salvaged Vraxian components in a masterpiece of human ingenuity and desperation. "Neural mapping complete," Dr. Mehta announced, monitoring James Harrington's brain activity. The former Air Force pilot sat calmly in the testing chamber, electrodes attached to his temples. "Remember," Chen instructed Harrington through the intercom, "start with simple commands only. Engine diagnostics, nothing more." Harrington nodded, jaw set with determination. "Ready when you are." Chen looked to Reed, who stood watching from the observation window. He gave a short nod, and she initiated the sequence. The interface helmet activated with a soft hum. Harrington's eyes widened behind the visor as neural connections formed. Outside the cave laboratory, concealed beneath camouflage netting, the damaged Vraxian scout craft remained silent for several seconds. Then its external lights flickered to life. "Connection established," Harrington whispered, voice filled with wonder. "It's responding to my thoughts. I can see the diagnostic systems, feel the engine configurations." The team watched in tense silence as Harrington navigated the alien systems using only his mind. Display screens in the lab mirrored what he was seeing. Vraxian command interfaces, status indicators, propulsion controls. "Attempting to access propulsion," Harrington reported. His breathing quickened, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool chamber. "I can feel the engine configurations. It's like extensions of my own nervous system." The scout craft's propulsion system engaged with a low hum. Outside, leaves scattered as its gravitational field activated. Then Harrington gasped, his body suddenly rigid. Blood trickled from his nose as warning signals flashed across the monitoring equipment. "Disconnect him now," Chen shouted, rushing to the chamber. Dr. Mehta terminated the connection, but Harrington's convulsions continued for several agonizing seconds before he collapsed. Medical staff rushed in with emergency equipment as the rest of the team watched, in horror. 3 days later, Harrington sat up in his recovery bed, eyes unfocused and speech slightly slurred. Permanent neural damage from the interface connection. It wasn't just the feedback, he explained to Chen and Reed. It was the intensity. Their systems are designed for brains with built-in protection, neural pathways that can handle the load without burning out. Chen studied the data recordings, her expression grim. The Vraxian mind has natural shielding against neural feedback loops. Without that protection, human operators will suffer progressive damage with each connection. Reed paced the small medical chamber. Can we develop something to protect our operators? Not without comprehensive information on how their neural protection works, Chen replied. We need access to their primary medical database. Reed stopped pacing, his expression hardening. Liberty Tower, Manhattan, Chen nodded. The highest security facility on the planet. Later that evening, Reed reviewed Liberty Tower schematics with his tactical team, planning entry points and escape routes. This won't be an extraction mission, he told them quietly. It's infiltration and data theft from the heart of their operation. Meanwhile, in his Crystal Spire command center, Admiral Zorth skimmed reports of energy anomalies and missing equipment, dismissing them with a wave of his long-fingered hand. Human sabotage attempts, he told his security chief. Nothing. More, how wrong he was. The service corridors of Liberty Tower smelled of industrial cleaners and the faint ozone tang that accompanied all Vraxian technology. Reed led his team through the maintenance level, their borrowed uniforms and forged identification chips granting them the invisibility of the unremarkable. Humans deemed worthy of menial tasks were beneath Vraxian attention, a blind spot the Resistance had exploited repeatedly. Security checkpoint ahead, Rodriguez whispered through their subvocal communication system, technology salvaged from military special forces equipment. 2 guards and automated scanners. Reed adjusted his utility cap, eyes calm despite the danger. Standard procedure. Washington and Tanaka Maintenance Panel Delta 6. Rodriguez and I will handle the primary objective. They separated at the junction, each team moving with practiced efficiency. The checkpoint guards barely glanced at their identification, the Vraxians' 6-fingered hands waving them through, with casual disregard. 5 levels above, Washington and Tanaka accessed the biological storage units, their movements hidden beneath the regular maintenance schedule Rodriguez had hacked into the system. Targeting neural tissue samples from research subjects 3 through 17, Washington murmured, consulting the list Dr. Chen had provided. These contain the highest concentration of protective neural coatings. Tanaka worked the storage unit's control panel with careful precision. Security protocols bypassed. We have 4 minutes before the system runs an integrity check. Meanwhile, Reed and Rodriguez reached the tertiary data terminal in a quiet corner of the medical research level. Rodriguez connected their specialized drive to an access port, fingers flying across the interface. Sequencing encryption patterns, she whispered. Chen's algorithms are finding pathways through their security. Reed stood guard, his posture relaxed but eyes constantly scanning. Time? 90 seconds to complete download, Rodriguez replied, watching data streams flow into their storage device. On level 6, Washington and Tanaka secured the final tissue sample. Extraction complete, Washington confirmed, moving to rendezvous point. The plan was unfolding perfectly, until a security scan detected the unusual data access patterns in the medical database. Alarms wailed suddenly, bathing the corridors in pulsing red light. Download at 86%, Rodriguez reported, her voice steady despite the blaring sirens. Reed activated his communication link. Everyone proceed to extraction point. Maintain standard movement, no running. The team reunited at their designated exit point, but as they approached the final security checkpoint, a Vraxian elite guard unit appeared, their crystalline armor gleaming beneath the emergency lights. Defensive positions, Reed ordered, pushing, his team behind a structural column as particle weapons discharged, superheating the air. Reed assessed their options in seconds. Direct engagement would be suicide. Instead, he aimed precisely at the environmental control panel, his modified projectile weapon punching through the casing. Superheated steam erupted from ruptured conduits, filling the corridor with blinding, scalding fog. Go, now, Reed shouted, providing covering fire as his team sprinted toward the exit. Washington led the way, tissue samples secure in her specialized container. Rodriguez followed with the data drive, Tanaka covering their rear. Reed maintained position, each shot calculated to destroy security systems rather than Vraxian guards, more effective in gaining his team precious seconds. The steam cleared momentarily, and a particle beam sliced through the dissipating cloud, catching Reed squarely in the torso. The impact threw him against the wall, armor instantly charred through to flesh beneath. "Reed!" Washington turned back, but he waved her forward. "Complete the mission," he commanded, voice steady despite the mortal wound. "Get that data to Chen." Dawn painted the sky with streaks of orange and gold as Operation Takeover commenced across 6 continents. In the command center beneath Chicago's ruins, Amara Washington studied the tactical display, honoring Reed's memory with unwavering focus. 3 months of preparation had transformed the resistance from scattered cells into a coordinated force. Interface. Operators report ready status worldwide, Communications Specialist Meera Patel announced, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. Washington nodded. Initiate Phase 1. Across the globe, human operators donned neural interface helmets enhanced with protective algorithms derived from Liberty Tower's stolen data. Dr. Chen had worked ceaselessly to adapt Vraxian neural protection for human physiology, testing each iteration until the interfaces could be used safely. In Sydney, interface operator Jin Park sat cross-legged in a basement facility, breathing deeply as the neural connection formed. His consciousness expanded outward, merging with the Vraxian Sentinel drone patrolling the harbor district. Through the drone's sensors, he perceived the world in ultraviolet and infrared spectrum simultaneously. "Sentinel control established," he reported, his physical voice barely a whisper while his mind directed the drone away from resistant supply routes. Similar reports echoed from operator stations worldwide. Moscow's resistance cell reported success in compromising security systems, creating phantom alerts that drew Vraxian forces away from critical infrastructure. In Rio de Janeiro, former gaming champion Maria Oliveira navigated the complex neural landscape of Vraxian battlecruiser systems, her exceptional spatial awareness allowing her to bypass security protocols with unprecedented speed. Command vessel identified, Oliveira's handler reported to Washington. Neural access acquired. Washington watched green indicators spreading across the tactical display as human operators gained control of increasingly critical systems. "This is for you, Reed," she whispered. In Chicago, Vraxian Commander Telix noticed unusual patterns in defense grid operation. His long fingers moved across the control panel, attempting to initiate diagnostic protocols. The communication system responded with garbled feedback, his commands rerouted by human operators hidden within the network. "Central Command, we have potential system irregularities," Telix attempted to report. His message never reached its destination. By midday, the pattern became unmistakable. Across the planet, Vraxian technology turned against its masters. Transport vessels diverted from assigned routes, defense weapons powered down during security. Alerts and communication systems broadcast resistance messages on Vraxian frequencies. In the orbital command center, Admiral Zorth reviewed increasingly frantic reports from planetary installations. His normally composed features contorted with alarm as comprehension dawned. "Disconnect all systems from the central network immediately," he commanded, voice resonating through the ship's communication system. "Priority override Alpha. This is not a drill." The emergency protocol triggered across Vraxian installations worldwide, cutting connections to Central Command. But rather than containing the threat, the disconnection created isolated systems, more vulnerable to direct neural control by waiting human operators. Washington watched the tactical display as success indicators multiplied exponentially. "They've cut their own communication network," she informed Dr. Chen, who monitored neural feedback levels for their operators. "Perfect," Chen replied, her exhausted face breaking into a smile. "Isolated systems are easier to access than their central network." Their defensive protocol just made our job significantly easier. In orbit, Admiral Zorth watched helplessly as systems across his command ship reported unauthorized access, one after another. The Resistance headquarters beneath Chicago hummed with activity as data streamed in from captured Vraxian systems. What had begun as a desperate counterstrike was transforming into something far more significant, the potential collapse of an interstellar empire. Dr. Chen analyzed fleet deployment information with Washington at her side, both women stunned by what they were discovering. Holographic star charts filled the command center, revealing the true extent of Vraxian territory and its vulnerabilities. Their expansion was too aggressive, Washington observed, studying resource allocation tables. They've stretched themselves dangerously thin across 17 systems. Chen nodded, highlighting specific sectors. Earth represents nearly 30% of their military commitment. The remaining forces are scattered across their conquered worlds, with minimal reserves at their homeworld. Interface operator Hiroshi Nakamura, his mind connected to the Vraxian communication network, suddenly straightened in his chair. Incoming transmissions from multiple systems, he reported. Significant unrest on at least 5 planets. The Proxima Centauri mining colonies are experiencing labor disruptions. Tau Ceti reports resource shortages. Washington exchanged a meaningful glance with Chen. They're vulnerable everywhere, not just here. Chen immediately gathered her communication team. We need to adapt our neural interface technology for transmission to other conquered species. Each will have different neurological structures, but the principles should translate. As her team worked to modify the interface specifications, Washington coordinated with their orbital asset team. Former astronaut Commander Sofia Diaz led a group of elite interface operators who had infiltrated the Vraxian flagship Eternal Dominion, currently in Earth orbit. We've established control of life support and communication arrays, Diaz reported via secure channel, moving systematically toward weapons systems. Maintain stealth protocols, Washington instructed. We need full control before they realize what's happening. Chen's team worked feverishly to compile the Galactic broadcast package. Technical specifications for neural interfaces adapted to various species' physiologies, tactical data on Vraxian vulnerabilities, and footage of successful human countermeasures. The message was clear. The conquerors could be defeated. Package complete, Chen announced several hours later. Ready for transmission to all 17 systems. Washington nodded to Nakamura. Send it. The operator activated the captured quantum communication relays, broadcasting the resistance package through subspace channels the Vraxians had established to maintain their empire. The resistance used their conqueror's own network against them. The response came faster than anyone anticipated. Within hours, confirmation signals arrived from multiple systems. First acknowledgements, then reports of coordinated actions against Vraxian outposts. Proxima Centauri mining colonies have seized control of 3 Vraxian frigates, Nakamura reported, his voice rising with excitement. Tau Ceti reports successful infiltration of their orbital command station. Washington watched. The strategic display as Vraxian control indicators blinked from green to red across star systems. What had begun as Earth's resistance was becoming a multi-planet rebellion. Commander Diaz's voice came through from the captured flagship. Eternal Dominion is secure. Admiral Zorth and his command staff have been contained in the bridge sector. Weapons systems and interstellar drives are under our complete control. The command center erupted in cheers, but Washington quickly restored order. This is just the beginning, she reminded them. Now we dictate terms. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion gleamed with crystalline displays and flowing data streams. Vraxian technology now operated entirely by human minds. Admiral Zorth entered under escort, his towering frame diminished by defeat, but his bearing, still proud. His gaze swept over the human operators seated at stations once commanded by his officers. Washington occupied his command chair, Dr. Chen standing at her side. They had come full circle from the day the Vraxian ships first darkened Earth's skies. Your species continues to surprise me, Zorth acknowledged, his translator rendering his words in flat tones. In 17 conquests, we have never encountered such Adaptability. Washington activated the central display, showing real-time footage from across the galaxy. Vraxian forces retreating from Proxima Centauri. Liberation celebrations on Tau Ceti. Former slave species dismantling extraction facilities on world after world. "Your empire is finished, Admiral," Washington stated, simply. "But Earth doesn't seek destruction. We offer terms. Complete withdrawal from all occupied worlds, reparations for damages inflicted, and technological exchanges to help rebuild what you've destroyed." Chen stepped forward. "In return, we won't pursue your forces to your homeworld, or seek further retribution. Unlike the Vraxian ascendancy, we understand that true strength comes from cooperation, not subjugation." Zorth studied the tactical displays showing his collapsing empire, silent calculation behind his multi-pupiled eyes. "The terms are acceptable," he finally responded. "You leave me no alternative." 6 months later, the former Central Park hosted representatives from 14 formerly conquered species at the first Interstellar Cooperation Summit. The crystal spires of Vraxian occupation had been dismantled, replaced by a single memorial monument where Reed and other resistance heroes were honored. Dr. Chen watched as delegates from across the galaxy, beings of incredible diversity in form and thought, collaborated on shared technologies and recovery efforts. What had begun as humanity's desperate fight for survival had evolved into something far greater. From subjugation, we found liberation. Washington addressed the assembly, her voice carrying across the restored park. From invasion, we created alliance. From conflict, we forged understanding. Above, a starship of revolutionary design performed a ceremonial flyover. At its controls, a human pilot used the refined neural interface technology to communicate directly with the vessel's integrated systems, technology that had evolved from weapons of war into tools of peaceful exploration. The Vraxian Empire had retreated to their home system, their conquered territories liberated. Human neural interface technology, adapted for various physiologies, became the foundation for a new era of shared technological development. As twilight fell on the summits, opening day, Chen stood before Reed's memorial statue, remembering the man whose sacrifice had made their victory possible. The conquest ended not when humans took control, she reflected to Washington, who had joined her in quiet remembrance, but when we showed the galaxy there's a better way forward than conquest at all. Washington nodded, watching the faces of their new allies against the setting sun. "Reed would be proud," she said quietly. "He always believed humanity had something unique to offer the universe." The universe, it seemed, had finally taken notice.